All right, folks, welcome to the runningrestaurants.com podcast, where we bring you the tips, tools, and techniques you need to know to make your restaurant more profitable and successful. I'm your host, Jamie Oikel, and today we've got a great episode for you with Andy Diamond, who is the president of Angry Crab Shack. Welcome, Andy. Why are the crabs so angry?
I mean, have you ever met a happy crab? It's one thing. It's the answer our founder Ron Liu gave. I asked him, I go, "Why angry crab?" He goes, "Have you ever seen a happy one?" I'm like, "I don't think so." He goes, "They're crabby."
That's fair.
They're angry.
Yeah. For folks that don't know the brand, you guys are started in Arizona, but tell folks that don't know about the concept, more about it, how you got started, where the locations are, where you're expanding, what's going on.
Yeah. So Angry Crab Shack will turn 9 years old this November. So in 9 years, Ron Liu, who's the founder of Angry Crab Shack, former football player at ASU and actually played in the NFL, has been in restaurants for about 20, 25 years. And he sort of came up the idea with Angry Crab Shack actually when he was in the hospital. And he was very angry. That's another way angry comes from it. But he's had great seafood knowledge in the restaurants that he's done. And with his, he's a first generation Chinese American. And so he took his experience in seafood and sort of spices and came up with our signature sauces, our boil sauces, which really set Angry Crab Shack apart. So we have this great menu with this great food and, opened up the first restaurant, but wanted it to be more than just a place where people came and ate. We wanted it to be the ultimate dining experience. People spend their hard money on food, and we want them to feel like that they got more than just a meal out of it. So it's very interactive. There's tongue and groove on the walls where guests can sort of make their mark and sign the walls and sort of take ownership in the place. And it's just a very fun atmosphere, and the servers are interactive. If you get something spicy, we're going to let the whole restaurant know it. If you're there for an anniversary or a birthday, we'll wish you a happy birthday and everyone's going to know it, but we'll do it our way. We won't sing you some song. We'll just scream that it's your birthday and run a siren and hit the bells and let everyone clap for you.
Nice.
No embarrassing song, just an embarrassing scream. But it gets to the point, it got to the point where really in our first year or so, our guests sort of took our culture and ran with it, and we let them run with it. Why not let your guests tell you what they like about your restaurant? And I tell this story a lot. It was our first summer that our first location was open, and we're near our high school, and it was summer graduation. And every student that walked in there with a cap and gown or diploma, the entire restaurant, without us prompting anything, just got up and gave him a standing ovation. So it just feels, even though as we're growing, we've always wanted to keep that mom and pop singular location mentality. So every location that we've done, and we've got 18 open now, there's something unique about that location. It all looks the same, but they're all a little bit different. And our franchise owners in Houston and Nevada and Alabama, you can tell that they have a little bit of their own personality within each location.
We got sounds going off. We got life is happening in the background.
I know, right? Forgot rookie mistake. I forgot to hit the silent button on the phone.
Yeah, no worries. I was writing down a few things. One of the things I wrote down was the spending money, and it's hard-earned money. And I've had so many experiences lately where my checks have gone up at restaurants everywhere, like everyone else, right?
Right.
And it's like, shoot, I just paid a bunch of money, but man, the experience was blah. The food was kind of blah. So I can appreciate that mentality. And I pulled this quote off your site right on there. So I wanted to ask you about it. It says, our passion is to serve delicious seafood to our guests in a fun, sometimes loud and very casual environment. And that's what you just talked about. That sounds like it's baked right in.
It absolutely. So when you're walking in, you're wearing t-shirt, flip-flops if you want to. There's gloves if you want to put them on. We'll give you a bib. Put butcher paper or freezer paper on the table, and you just, your table is your plate and your utensils are your hands. So it's very fun. It's very laid back. We were even voted our first couple of years the best third date restaurant in Arizona.
That's funny.
They said by then you can see just how disgusting you can be with shrimp hanging out of your mouth with your date to see if you're compatible. But it's, it's the type of thing you're going to come for fun, and we're value minded. if you look at our seafood prices now, seafood prices have gone up as you mentioned, everything else has, but we've always tried to not sticker shock our guests. So we're okay with having a higher food cost than most people, because again, we want people to come in, enjoy themselves and not say, I can't believe I just paid this much money for that. I'm so disappointed. We want people to even say, wow, that was awesome. I can't believe how cheap it was.
Yeah, that's exactly right. You want to leave them with the feeling that, juice, I got a great value. I want to come back. Whereas, of course, the opposite of that is completely what you don't want to give them. So let's go to you. Let's go back to you for a sec. I saw somewhere else, website somewhere else, first job, usher, Kansas City Royal Stadium.
Yeah.
So go there and go how you got to where you are today, kind of on a quick
Yeah.
journey.
So, was an usher at the K, as they call it, the Kansas City Royals. I'm a huge sports fan, and had the opportunity to, my senior year, become an usher and see every one of George Brett's last home games as a Kansas City Royal.
Yeah.
Not very good, but watching George Brett was just awesome.
Yeah, he was incredible.
So that was a great experience, being an employee of the Royals, and then went to school at Indiana University and majored in accounting. And then after graduating from Indiana, I moved to Chicago and practiced intellectual property consulting, and basically resolved around equating economic damages for patent infringement cases and being giving expert witness testimony. I didn't give the testimony, but I did a lot of the analysis and models. Did that for about 2.5 years, and then moved to Atlanta in the fall of '99 and took a job with a company called McMaster Carr, which is a company out of Chicago, but they had a branch in Atlanta. And this became part of the management group that ran different departments in the warehouse, and got a lot of operational knowledge. When you're in a warehouse, you make a decision, you find out right away if it was a good decision or bad decision. You find out how efficient your day is going based on decisions that you're making. So I really liked the fact that I spent the first couple of years doing a lot of analysis, a lot of spreadsheets, a lot of planning and budgeting, and really looking at, what makes numbers relevant. Because when you're doing a budget or when you're doing a pro forma, and this is great for restaurant owners to know, if you're not using the correct relevant data, it doesn't matter what the answer is. It's like if you're building a house, but the foundation is bad, the house is going to fall apart. So getting both the sort of planning and high level and long-term thinking, analysis, and combine that with operational experience was great. And then I had a couple buddies in Atlanta that wanted to get into the restaurant business, and they bought a franchise, this Cajun place called Po' Boys out of Tallahassee. And about 6 or 7 months into it, they asked me if I wanted to come in and help them out with it. And I said, sure. I was kind of getting bored of my job a little bit. Been there about 3 years, was sort of ready to move on to something else. And, at age 26, 7, fell in love with the restaurant industry. I'm not like a lot of, other people I'm sure you've talked to, where they started out as servers and bussers and have always been in it. I got in it very late, and but realized that this was the perfect sort of career path for me. And about 3 years later, we ended up selling the business, and I've sort of, looking to, hitting 30, never lived out West, lived in the South, lived in, a big city like Chicago. Love sports. Sounds like Scottsdale, Arizona is the perfect location. So, loaded up my car and drove across the country, and happened in Scottsdale, and, started to make some contacts, got involved in a few different restaurants. And then in 2014 was introduced to Ron Liu, who's our founder. And we were a good match. He's a true innovator. He thinks differently than a lot of people. He's got a lot of creativity. About the only thing we had in common is that I love NFL football and he played NFL football. That's about it. But we're a good match. And I remember, talking to him about 4 months into me being there. And it opened in Crab Shack. The first one opened in November 2013. I came on basically January 2014. to help him out. And, I remember telling him, I was like, Ron, you got something here. This is great. Like, just look around, look at the people enjoying themselves. And I go, I think this is something that would work, not just in Arizona, but in other places. And he's like, well, what do I need to do? And I'm like, well, you got to have multiple restaurants. You got to show that this will work
Right.
in different neighborhoods, in different areas, and different demographics. And he's like, okay, let's go. That's all he needed. And the next thing I know, it's 2016 and we have 6 restaurants open and operating. And then it came to really concentrating on expansion, not just in Arizona, but outside. So we started looking at franchise possibilities. And so we really started getting serious about franchise maybe 2017, 2018, and then started signing our first agreements outside of Arizona in 2019.
Okay. Yeah. So thanks for taking me on that journey. And I could go a whole bunch of directions from here, but since you just mentioned the franchise piece, I want to stick there because obviously you have the website for the restaurant, and then you also have a franchise site. I saw a quote there that I liked, that everybody who is thinking about franchising, or everybody who's operating a restaurant, would kind of gravitate towards. You say, we've cracked the code on running a profitable restaurant franchise. I'm going to unpack that for a second, because running a restaurant can be very unprofitable if you don't do it right. It can be very stressful. There's ways in systematizing things to get profits built into the system. So how do you guys think about that formula when you say you cracked it? What do you got?
Well, yeah, I mean, you want your franchise partners to know, hey, you're buying something. You're buying our process. You're buying our book. You're buying the mistakes that we made as we were going on, and, taking advantage of some of the deals that maybe we didn't have when we first started out. So the first step, obviously, is you're looking at your build out. And we like second generation real estate because it's going to be less of a build out. Now, if you can't find second generation real estate, things are going to cost a little bit more, and you have to go in there, understanding that. But our process of looking at how to build out a restaurant, the equipment that you need. We don't have an extensive kitchen. We don't have a lot of kitchen equipment. The only thing we require is that you need to have enough freezer space in order to house, some of all the food that you're going to be selling. So, without a ton of kitchen equipment, you can really limit your expenses. Where if you look at our decor, it's tongue and groove and it's paint. So you're not spending a lot of money on frills and lighting and doing things that, add a lot of extra dollars for the appearance, because to us, the fun that you're going to have is what's going to draw you to the inside of Angry Crab Shack. But then it's about operating. Mm-hmm. And, what we've done is we've been very good with our vendors and building long-term relationship with our vendors. When we first started, we were getting our snow crab, shrimp, and king crab, which are our 3 biggest sellers, at Restaurant Depot. We had to go multiple times during the week, sometimes multiple times during the day, because the big suppliers like Sysco, who we use now, or US Foods, they weren't buying big blocks of seafood. And so I had a good relationship and some other businesses with Sysco, and went to them and said, hey, we're growing. What can you do for us? And they started buying seafood in bulk, which just made it so much easier because they were getting good pricing. They were housing it for us and delivering it to us when we needed. And then as we've gone on with them, and as we've grown, we've paid attention to the contracts that we have with them. So the contract that just expired with them, we put in a sort of step variable pricing, but also a cap on our king crab and snow crab, because we identified as these were 2 items that could go up in price and go up hurry. And as we've seen, really they did. The cost of king crab and snow crab are probably up 500% over the last 3 or 4 years, our cost. So obviously, when you see some of the prices of king crab and snow crab, that is why it has just gone up. But we put a cap in there on how much margin could be charged based on the price of the seafood to us, or the cost of the seafood to us. So while it still may be expensive, they couldn't go up above a certain margin, and that's allowed us to keep our prices down. But our franchise partners also get that same deal.
Yeah.
So having good vendors, good relationship with the vendors makes a lot of sense, and being loyal to the vendors. We don't like to jump. We won't sit there and say, oh, This guy came in with lower pricing. Now we're going to move to them. And then 6 months later, we move again. We like to stick with who has worked with us before. And because there's that trust there, that we get that long-term pricing, we're never jumping around to find out where we're going to get this next product, which has been important, obviously, with all the supply chain issues.
Sure. Yeah. So, all right, you got the good build out, lower cost there. You got the systems in place. I want to talk then about the marketing piece.
Yeah.
You got to get people in. So marketing, branding, online ordering, all that has changed in the last 2 years. How do you guys bring people in? How do you bring them back in beyond the experience? And then we'll talk about people a little bit too, but what are you doing on the marketing side?
So a lot of it's social media now, which is great because a lot of that's free. So we make sure that our Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, are all up to date, and they're fun videos. We will make sure when we do certain videos, we have mascot uniforms, and we'll put people in mascot uniforms, and just, when you see something like that, your eyes just kind of look at it. It's like, well, what are these guys doing? We got to watch it.
Right.
The other thing is you want to showcase what you have, which is the food. So a lot of our videos is cracking open the food, dipping the food in our sauce. Our famous sauce, the most popular sauce is Trifecta, which is a combination of Cajun, lemon pepper, and garlic. It's a buttery sauce, and then you can sort of spice it as much as you want to. But just seeing the visuals of the seafood and showing how big the king crab and snow crab meat coming out and the lobster tails, everything like that, it really draws people in. So a lot of it's social media. And again, that is the free part of it. We definitely do some print media marketing in some of the restaurant books and things like that. But I think one thing that really helps it out, and it's great because it's marketing by giving back to our community, which is definitely one of our principles. We do a July promotion every year. It's called You Dine, We Donate. And for every guest that comes into Angry Crab Shack, we will donate 25 cents to Arizona Housing Coalition, which helps at-risk veterans for homelessness. This is a organization that helps people out getting driver's licenses and filling out Social Security, and obviously gives them clothes and food, but also just filing for unemployment, or maybe even how to go about getting a job. And this past July we did it. Just finished the promotion, obviously, and we raised $75,000 for this organization.
Wow,
when you're promoting this, that is marketing, but you're also giving back.
Yeah.
Our biggest charitable partner is Phoenix Children's Hospital. And we have on our menu Phoenix Children's Fries. And when franchise partners go in other states, they find a children's hospital or a similar charity, and they have their fries. In Henderson, I believe it's Sunrise Fries. And for every order of Phoenix Children's Fries, Angry Crab Shack donates $1 to Phoenix Children's Hospital. And this year, our commitment is going to be $250,000. So you hear a lot of goals being met, and it's how many stores do you want, and what's your operating revenue going to be? How much sales are you trying to get? One of our big goals was hitting $1 million in charitable donations, which is something we will do sometime this year. So in less than a decade, through our guests, really, we're going to be able to donate over $1 million to various charities, with Arizona Housing Coalition and Phoenix Children's Hospital being our two biggest partners. So some of the marketing is in definitely giving back to your community. But the best marketing you can do is the food and the experience yourself. When guests come in and have a good time, they tell 5 people, and those 5 people go in and they tell 5 people. So the word of mouth, the buzz, it's amazing how much you actually get out of providing a great product with great service at a reasonable price.
Yeah, it kind of does the job for you. I'm glad you brought up the community stuff. I saw that on your site. It was a big piece. I did want to ask you about that. So I'm glad you share that. And you're growing and so forth, but that sounds like you've been doing that since the beginning. And it's a really good strategy, is not the right word, because it's just part of who you are, but it's something that independent restaurants and growing chains and anybody can use to really become engaged with and enamored with their local community. So I applaud what you're doing. That's a great goal. Let's go to the people side. Labor shortage has been a big deal across the country, continues to be. I'm sure it is for you. Adaptations, things that are working for you, secrets to find good people, keep good people, anything you've seen or done over the last little stretch to get by?
Well, yeah, I mean, just like a lot of the restaurants, it's been tough. And there were times this year when we had limited hours just because we did not have the staff. Now, this is something that we knew we're anticipating. A lot of, running a restaurant is having a plan before it happens. Just like when you're marketing, if you're marketing something for March, you're starting to plan for it in June the previous year. When you're looking at a potential problem that sort of may make a difference on your hours or your sales or your operations, you want to have a plan in place. And we were looking at during COVID and seeing when the increase of unemployment benefits was going to end, which was right around July in Arizona. And we looked at that date and said, okay, if we start having more applications coming in after July 2021, we'll think we'll be okay. But if we don't, then we know that a big group of people did quit the restaurant business. And the hospitality business in general got hit a lot by COVID and people finding different careers, moving to Yahoo, Targets,
For sure.
Amazon, a lot of the online shopping. So our kitchen operation is streamlined. In general, we don't need a lot of cooks, a lot of employees to run the restaurant. So it became a lot of working with the team, a lot of the managers, going in there and working, a lot of our corporate trainers and regional managers were manning in the restaurants. And when employees see that, that gives them saying, these guys care. They just don't see us as an employee that they can kick around. They see us as part of the team and they're working with us. So we're able to keep a lot of the cooks, our front of the house employees. We've had employees that have been with us for over 7 years, which is great. We want people to come in and think of us not just as a job, but this isn't just where they work. This is coming where it's a job, but it's part of their family. It's a career path for them, possibility. It's what they want to do, with their life. They think of it as more than just coming in and getting a paycheck. And obviously, like a lot of other restaurants, we increased the pay. In Arizona, minimum wage was $12.80 already. So, but we've increased even, beyond that to where our kitchen employees are very happy with the amount of money they're getting. But we've also established something this year, which is a 401k plan. And the 401k plan is open to every employee, not just managers, but hostesses, hosts, servers, kitchen employees, dishwashers, whomever. Once they meet the 6-month, 7-month eligibility requirement, they can contribute to a 401k. But if they choose not to, there can still be part of the Angry Crab Shack contribution. So Ron Liu and I, Angry Crab Shack, do a basically a profit sharing plan, and it goes into the 401ks of the employees. But even if you don't contribute to a 401k plan, maybe you are still part of the profit sharing plan. So the longer you stay with Angry Crab Shack, the more money that Angry Crab Shack, will have you share in the profit. So, making the environment you always have to hire. You're always looking to hire. But once you get them in the door, it's just treating your employees the same as you do as guests. You give, the way that you give the guests, the service to the guests, and how much they enjoy the food and the air and the environment, you have to do that with your new employees. When the cooks come in, or the servers, or whomever, you walk them around, you introduce them to everyone, you make them feel at home, you make sure that they have the training, and you're giving all the tools that they need. You do not just bring them in and say, okay, there's the station, go and figure it out. You're actually with them and show them that you're going to help them be successful. You're going to give them the tools to be successful. So, making those employees want to be part of the Angry Crab Shack restaurant going forward, and not just, looking as a 3-month or 6-month job, but something that they may want to do for the long term. That's important to keep those employees. That way you're not always hiring and not always turning over and not always, looking for people.
Right. All right. You just rolled through a really good sequence for anybody to listen to. You pulled out a bunch of pieces on why someone would want to choose you over someone else. Right? It starts with better pay, but it's culture, it's adding in a 401k, it's growth and development opportunities. We had a good interview on that on that later. A lot of folks do start as a server, staff, manager, regional manager, and if they get aligned with your growing group, I mean, there's going to be opportunities down the road. So it's exciting to take that approach, and you see so many people job hop, and I think it's because they didn't get that sort of attention and leadership, and it's a shame.
Yeah, and I mean, when employees can see it, it makes a difference. And we've got 3 employees. We got 3 franchise owners right now that started out as servers.
Oh, okay.
So 3, one started in 2014. His name's Will Gardner, and he started out as a server, worked his way up to general manager. He left for a year or 2 to do solar sales, came back, wanted to get back into it. And we had an opportunity for an operating partner of a franchise, and he took that role and bought in, and now he owns part of 3 different Angry Crab Shack franchises. We have 2 others, Matthew Prentice and Josh Arnold, that both started out as servers in 2016, worked their way up to managers. They partnered up with a couple people, and now they own 4 of their own Angry Crab Shacks outright. So when you can come in as an employee and maybe leave as your own boss, people see that, and that's something people can strive for.
100%. Well, let's do this. Let's wrap. I like to stay right around 20, 25, 30 minutes, and we're getting there. So send them to the website, send them to the franchise site where you have more information on that. Any other parting thoughts you want to share? Go for it.
Yeah, so it's obviously www.angrycrabshack.com. There is a link on that website to get to the franchise, but if not, it's just angrycrabfranchise.com. You can follow us on TikTok and Twitter. I think we still have Twitter. I don't know if Elon Musk has bombed that one yet.
We don't know.
Instagram, Facebook, anything like that. And if you got any questions, honestly, just email me. I try to answer as many questions as I can. Sometimes I get letters from people, and some are good, some are bad, but I always try to give them a handwritten response to let them know that I read it and I am responding to them personally. And, the hope is when you go into an Angry Crab Shack, you feel like that it's just a single unit and it doesn't feel like a big part of the chain. One thing we always wanted to do as we've grown is to make sure we've never forgotten who we are, and we never operate different from who we were back in our first couple of years.
Yeah, super stuff there. I think you're seeing more restaurants have fun with the TikTok channel, because that's probably the most informal one. Right. Is that a fair statement? You guys just kind of use that one to play with?
Absolutely. And that's another thing for restaurant owners to know is make sure that you're always, in your corporate and your marketing department and just really in your company, make sure you're always bringing in younger people that you can sort of, mentor and turn into good executives, but also have fresh ideas. Our marketing director that we brought in, she was 24, 25 at the time. She absolutely exploded our social media and TikTok because she, just things that younger guests, want. And that's another thing is for restaurant owners to know, never be complacent with your guests that you have, because as those guests get older, they go out, as less. Sure. Maybe they're starting families, they move away. So you always need to be connecting with new guests, because those new guests at 25 in 10 years will be 35.
Yeah. Changing mindset. Very good stuff. All right. So I appreciate it, folks. That was Andy Diamond of Angry Crab Shack. You can find them at angrycrabshack.com. The franchise site is angrycrabfranchise.com. But again, you can link from the each other for more great restaurant marketing and operations, service people, and tech tips. Stay tuned to us here at runningrestaurants.com. We'll see you next time. Thanks, Andy.
Thank you, Jamie.